بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we'd like to start today with the exercises. But before we do that, are there any questions from material that we've looked at until now? Okay, in that case, let's start with the exercises. We want to begin with reading and translating the Arabic phrases. So I will read it slowly. Please correct your own exercises if you have anything that you had vocalized differently, if you put a different vowel sign in. If there's a question as to what the correct form is, then let me know, and then we will translate. مات المرء ولا ولد له فأكل إخوته كل ما كان عنده. كل ما كان أكل إخوته. Why إخوته? The brothers are the fa'il, they are doing the action. And then kulla. Why kulla? That's the maf'ul, that is what is being eaten. So akala, they ate. Ikhwatuhu is the one who is doing the eating. And then kulla is that which is being eaten. All of ma, what, kana indahu, all of that which was with him, or all that he had.
So the man died.
The man died.
And his son.
Wala walada lahu, and there was no son for him, or without a son, or childless.
Okay.
So la walada lahu, no son is for him. Like la ilaha illallah, no God exists like God. La walada lahu, no son or child exists for him.
So I think here in metaphorical sense, that actually means food, right?
Yes,
They're consuming his possession.
they're consuming his possessions.
Is there another way to say it besides akala? I'm not confused.
I mean, you could say akhadha, they took all that was in his possession. So akala, they figuratively ate everything that he had. مات المرء, the man died. ولا ولد له. This wa here is while no son was for him, or he had no son. فأكل كل إخوته, so all of his brothers ate. كل, all, ما كان عنده, that was with him.
So the brothers here, is that dual or is that?
The word in Arabic is akh, and that's singular. Remember we studied this with the words that can take i'rab with a letter. So akh, if it's mudaf, we will say, for example, akhu Zayd, or akha Zayd, or akhi Zayd. The plural is akhawan. Akhawan, never to be confused with ikhwan, which is the plural.
One is plural.
Akhawan.
Oh, akhawan is plural.
Akhawani.
Ikhwan is plural.
Yes, akhawani is dual, and that will change to akhawayni when it is mansub or majroor. So if I say akalal akhawan, the brothers ate. If I say akalal akhawain, he ate the brothers. So akhawan is when they are doing it. Akhawain is when it is being done to them.
So this one is ikhwa.
Ikhwan is one of the plurals, and ikhwa is another plural.
Is this because there's
There's two plurals for this word.
it's not because there's a after that? Oh, it's just ikhwa. And then you make
Ikhwa
it
is the
to
plural,
take on that.
and when then you make it mudaf to a pronoun, that ta marbuta becomes a regular ta. So you say ikhwa becomes, for example, my brothers will be ikhwa ti.
And you could say ikhwanahu.
You could say ikhwanuhu.
Okay.
Ikhwanuhu would be equally valid. There are differences among the different plurals, very minor differences that are not important. So we won't worry about that right now.
And what of that is mansub, is that because of la?
Yes, there's a la which will take a noun that is mansub, but it does not take the tanween. And as I mentioned, technically that's not considered to be a fatha because it's mansub. It has a bit more of a complicated grammatical explanation, but you can think of it as being mansub without a tanween.
But in all cases, it's after la?
Well, when la means it's negating a category. We had this in one of our previous lessons. Was it lesson 12 or 13? Was it in 13?
Yeah, it was like.
So that's the usage of la. The examples that we had were, of course, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la fata
So what are these now?
illa ali. La has this meaning not whenever there's a noun after it, but when it gives the meaning of there is no blank. So for example, if I say la ilma lana, there is no knowledge for us. Right? La can have other usages, in which case it will not have this i'rab. But this is a common usage. It means it's negating an entire category. So let's move on, and if there's further examples, then we'll see how that's used. And you'll become more familiar with these usages as you see more examples. Number 2, لَقَدْ رَأَيْنَاهُمْ يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامَ. Now when we're reading that, we will say يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامَ. We won't say يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامَ. هُمْ وَآبَاؤُهُمْ وَإِخْوَانُهُمْ. Can it be أَخَوَانُهُمْ? No. It must be إِخْوَانُهُمْ. And there's reasons for that. In the first place, after it comes أَخَوَاتُهُمْ. So when أَخَوَاتُهُمْ is plural, probably إِخْوَانُهُمْ would be plural as well. But even more importantly, if it were dual, we would have to drop the nun. Right? So akhawan means two brothers. When I want to say their two brothers, I won't say akhawanuhum. I'll say akhawa, and I'll drop the nun and I'll say hum. Akhawahum. Or if it's mansub or majroor, I will say akhawayhim. But ikhwan, as a plural, the noon is part of the word, it will not be dropped, and we'll say ikhwanuhum. So, of course, the other word ikhwa can also be used. That will become ikhwatu. So, in this sentence, what is the translation? Let's take it into pieces. لَقَدْ رَأَيْنَاهُمْ.
We saw them.
Indeed, we saw them. يَعْبُدُونَ.
They were worshipping the idols.
And how will we connect those sentences? They were worshipping the idols. يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامَ.
We saw them worshipping.
We saw them worshipping the idols, or we saw them while they were worshipping the idols. So that يَعْبُدُونَ is explaining what, when, or in what state we saw them.
So is that how that whole
It's considered a hal. It's explaining the state in which we saw them. We saw them, يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامَ, worshipping the idols. Whom? Them. وَآبَاؤُهُم, and their fathers. وَإِخْوَانُهُم, and their brothers. وَأَخَوَاتُهُم, and their sisters. Notice that before we mention their fathers and their brothers and their sisters, we repeat the pronoun that indicates that they are doing it. Whom?
that needed? Or
That's needed. So if you just said يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامَ وَآبَاؤُهُم, then it would not be clear what آبَاؤُهum is attached to.
You could always say رأيناهم وأباهم وأخوانهم وأخواتهم الإسلام.
You could say رأيناهم وآباءهم وإخوانهم وأخواتهم. That would be the maf'ul of رأيناهم. We saw all of them, and then you could put the يعبدون at the end. So رأيناهم وآباءهم وإخوانهم وأخواتهم, and then يعبدون الأصنام. That would be acceptable. In that case, it would be attached to the maf'ul of ra'ayna. Who did we see? We saw them and their fathers and their brothers and their sisters. But when it is at the end of the sentence, it's not being attached to ya'budun. It is being attached to. It's not being attached to ra'aynahum, the hum. It's being attached to the subject of ya'budun. So we saw them worshipping, and who was worshipping? These people who are named. The meaning is the same, but grammatically, aba'uhum is ma'atuf, or being conjuncted to the ones who are worshipping. And that's why it's aba'uhum and not aba'ahum, because it's marfu' and not mansub. Is that clear? If it had been whom we saw, it would have been aba'ahum mansub. Now, the meaning will not change very much, but the grammatical usage will change. Question?
In this sentence structure, does it mean that they actually saw all of these people, or they just saw them, but they know that them is connected with everybody in that group?
The sentence means that we saw them worshipping the idols, and all of them were worshipping, and the assumption is that we saw all of them. We've just started number 3 in the exercises for lesson 13. Ya ukhta Harun, ukhta Haruna, good. Ma kana abuki imra'a saw'in.
So it's amra'a,
Imra'a.
imra'a.
And I'll talk about that word in a second. So any questions? Ukhta Harun, O sister of Harun. And of course, Maryam, who's being referred to here, was not the sister of Harun, but a descendant of Harun. But that is something that is common in Arabic to refer to a tribe by the name of the father of the tribe. So if I say Ya Hashim, I could be referring to the person Hashim or to the clan of the Hashims. Ya Quraysh could refer to the person who was known as Quraysh, one of the ancestors of the Prophet, or it could refer to the tribe of Quraysh. Ya Umayyah could refer to the tribe Umayyah, or to the person who was the ancestor of Uthman and Abu Sufyan and the other Bani Umayyah, the descendants of Umayyah, could be the person or the tribe, the clan. Similarly, Ya Ukhta Harun, here it means, oh, sister of the Harunites.
Shouldn't be daughter of the daughter.
So she would be a daughter, yes. So the sister of the people of Harun. It's sort of like saying, Ya Ukhta Bani Harun, oh, sister of the descendants of Harun, which means, oh, daughter or descendant of Harun. But the grammar is saying, Ya Ukhta Harun, oh, sister of Harun. Ma kana abuke. Ma here means not. So ma kana abuke, your father was not. What? Imra'a saw'in. A man of evil.
So imra'a doesn't see.
The word imru is a unique word in Arabic because the hamza at the beginning is hamzatul wasl. So it has a kasra normally, imru, but it's dropped in the middle of a sentence. So if I'm speaking to, for example, a female, I will say abuke and then there won't be a harakat on the alif because it's dropped. Abukim ra'a. Or if it's a male I'm speaking to, the word will be abuka, and then it would be abukam ra'a. So the harakat of the alif will drop. And then the harakat of the last letter, the hamza, also will change based on the i'rab. With it, the harakat of the ra will also change. So I will say im ru'un, im ra'an, im ri'in. Normally, the i'rab only shows up on the last letter in most words. Zaydun, Zaydan, Zaydin. But in this case, it shows up in the second last letter as well. It doesn't happen in normal words. So with masjid, the jim always has a kasra. We'll say masjidun, masjidan, masjidin. And we won't say masjidin, masjudun, masjadan. The jim won't change its harakat. But in imru, the waw will take the i'rab and the ra will follow it. It's not a very important detail. That's why we didn't put it in the notes. But you should know how to pronounce that word.
So is it like it cannot be imra'un? It cannot be imra'un or
It will never be imra'un. It would be imru'un. It's not a commonly used word in modern Arabic, but it was used, and that's where the word mar'a is derived from, and mar'a is still used for women. Imra'a or al-mar'a is used in Arabic for woman. Ma kana abuki, your father was not, and then the khabar of kana will be mansub imra'a saw'in, a man, and there's idafa, of evil.
is it su'in or
Saw'in. Saw'in is from the same root as su, but when we're speaking to about a person, we will say rajulu saw'in, a man of evil, or imra'atu saw'in, a woman of evil. In this type of phrase, su is not used, so is used.
And when it's character amal, then you say su.
You'll say su if you're referring to an action. So you'll say amiltu su'an. I did evil.
Like evil woman would be actually so.
Oh, evil woman is imra'atu sawin.
In this case, wasn't that mudaf and mudaf ilayhi?
It's mudaf ilayh.
And then we still have tanween on the
The mudaf ilayh can take tanween. The mudaf will not take tanween because it's the mudaf which is in the middle of the phrase. So imra'a will not take tanween. Number 4, in huwa illa kadhibun gharrana biqawlihi al-kadhibi. Translation? What does in here mean? Not. One of the meanings of in is not. And that's used very commonly in the Quran, but not very commonly elsewhere. So, in antum illa fi dalalim mubin. In, not, antum, you, except in deviation clear. You are not, but in clear deviation. Right? So this in here means not. And you could have said ma antum. Or you could have combined the two and said from laysa lastum.
Is this like a double negative in English?
It's not a double negative. It's, it is in effect a double negative. It is a negative followed by an exception. So the end result is positive. You are not, but in error.
If you say you are not but a liar.
You are not anything but in error.
Why isn't it inna? I mean, can we inna also, right?
You cannot use inna here because inna, if there is a pronoun after it which is going to be its subject, then it would be attached. So you'll say innahu. And in with this negative meaning will almost always be used with illa. So you can tell because there will be in, noun, illa. That means it's used for negation. And the next sentence will say it in accordance with a joke. There's a joke that in a small village in Iran many years ago, there was only one person who knew Arabic and he would give the adhan. And when he died, there was nobody in the village who knew enough Arabic to give the adhan except a Jew who was educated and he knew Arabic. And so the Muslims went to him and said that we don't have anybody to read the adhan for us. Would you do our adhan? He said, sure, I'll do the adhan. He said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah 4 times because he believed that there is no God but God. But then instead of saying Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, he would say Ahlu hadhihi al-qarya yashhadun anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That the people of this village, they testify that Muhammad is the messenger of God. Because he could not do so. So this next sentence is not from a Muslim perspective. Ya abana alladhi fis samawat. Oh, our Father. Why is it abana? What is abana? It's mansub, right? So it's the same word ab. When it becomes mudaf, we will say either abuna or abana or abina. And when abina, when will we use each one? We'll use abana when it's mansub. So ya abana, after ya, when it's mudaf, it will be mansub. We'll say ya abana, and then alladhi fis samawat, who is in the heavens. Fis samawati. Never fatha.
Because it's on Islam, right?
The feminine plural will never take fatha no matter what. Number 6, ashhadu Allah. And this Allah is not illa. It's an plus la, which is shortened to Allah. So ashhadu Allah, I bear witness that no ilaha illallahu, I bear witness that there is no God but God. Wa ashhadu anna, and I bear witness that Muhammadan, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, Rasulullah, is the messenger of God.
So this first illa is still in accept. Ashhadu illa.
There's only one. No, the first alif lam alif is not illa. It's Allah.
Allah.
Ashhadu Allah, I bear witness that no ilaha, God, illallah. There's only one illa in this sentence, which means except.
Allah means that.
Allah is an plus la, which means that no.
Oh, so that's Allah. Okay.
An
that's
la.
Allah.
If you want to think of it, then you can even separate it in writing. You can say ashhadu an, I bear witness that. Now, what am I bearing witness that? La ilaha illallah. So I bear witness that there is no God but God. But what happens is an plus la, that an la is shortened to Allah in pronunciation. And when it's done in pronunciation, in writing, it's also combined into Allah.
But when we say the Allah, we normally do say Ashhadu an la.
Ashhadu an la ilaha.
It's better to say Ashhadu an la.
That's how you say it. Next one, number 7. وَهَبَ اللَّهُ لِمُوسَى أَخَاهُ هَارُونَ نَبِيًّا وَبَعَثَهُمَا بِآيَاتِهِ إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ. إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ. So wahaba means he gifted. Who gifted? Allah. That's why it's Allahu. Wahaba Allahu. Allah gifted. What did he gift? What is the object of the sentence? The maf'ul. Akhahu. He gifted his brother. And his brother is Harun. So Harun is explaining Akhahu. Akhahu Haruna. Who did he gift this to? Le Musa. For Musa. So Allah gifted for Musa his brother Harun. Nabiyan. In this condition or state that he was a prophet. So that's hal.
That's not describing Harun.
It's describing Harun. It's a hal for Harun. Allah sent or gifted Harun in such a state that he was a prophet. وَبَعَثَهُمَا, and he sent the two of them بِآيَاتِهِ, with his signs, إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ, to Fir'aun. Next one, هذا النبأ لأولي الأمر من قومنا وليس للذين لا علم لهم به. هذا النبأ, this news, لأولي الأمر, is for those in command. So هذا النبأ لأولي الأمر, this news is for those in command, min qawmina, among our people. That's the end of one sentence. Walaysa, what is the ism of laysa? It's hidden. What are we talking about in this sentence? The news. Right? We're saying this news is for the people of command, and it is not. What is not? The news is not. So laysa, the pronoun hidden, goes back to an-naba. This news is for the people in command, walaysa an-naba, and the news is not lilladhina, for the people, la ilma lahum bihi, yes, who have no knowledge of it, or the people who no knowledge of it is with them. Next, number 9. هل علمت لما not لم لما هل علمت لما قام أبوك وأخوك من مقامهما وخرجا من المدينة وخرجا من مدينة أهلهما. هل علمت translation we'll get to that at the end of the sentence. So it's مدينة أهلهما. هل علمت. What does hal mean?
Question.
It's used to introduce a question. And alimta, did you know? Alimta, did you know? Technically, it could be alimat, which would mean did she know? It could be hal alimtu, did I know? But it's unlikely you're going to ask a question about your own knowledge. You know whether you knew or you didn't. So, hal alimta is the most likely, or hal alimte, but hal alimat is also acceptable. Lima qama abuka wa akhuka, we'll assume it's masculine. Lima qama abuka. So, did you know? Lima qama abuka, why did your father stand up? Wa akhuka, and your brother. Min maqamihima, from their place. So why did they stand from their place? Wa kharaja min madinati ahlihima, and leave the city.
With the family.
No, madinati ahlihima. So min madinati ahlihima, from the city of the people of them. So from the city of their people. So this is min madinat is jar wa majroor. Madina is majroor, but it's also mudaf to ahl. So it's ahli, and then ahl is mudaf to hima, from the city of the people of them, or from the city of their people.
Why are they trying to confuse? I mean, they could always say Ahlihima. Why is it that they are the city? I mean, is it just
It's the city of their people that they're leaving. So their people might not have been in the city, but this was the city of their people. They left the city of their people, not necessarily
It's like a homeland.
their homeland. So kharaja min madinati ahlihima, they left the city of their people. Number 10. Inna tilkal mar'a ta, because it's ism of inna. Inna tilkal mar'atal jamilata la tanzuru ila al-hayati ad-dunya. So this is one sentence. Verily, that beautiful woman, that's the ism of inna, and now the khabar of inna, la tanzuru ila al-hayati ad-dunya, does not look. It's imperfect tense. So is not looking or does not look to the lowly life or to the present life. Nadara means to look or to give importance to attend to. Bal hiya nadiratun ila al-akhirati.
But they are looking at
But she is looking. So here it's she is looking to the hereafter. Number 11. كان هارون أخا موسى وكان لهما أخت اسمها مريم. Harun was the brother of Musa. Harun is the ism of Kana, marfu, and Akha is the khabar of Kana, mansub. Kana Haruno Akha Musa. And there is an alif in Akha because it is mudaf to Musa. So Akha Musa. Mudaf ilayh. Wa kana ukhtun lahuma. Ukht is the ism of Kana, and lahuma is the khabar, it came first. So kana lahuma ukhtun means kana ukhtun lahuma. But then you would have said kanat ukhtun lahuma. Now, that is also something that we have not discussed, but if there is a feminine subject for kana and there is a gap between kana and the subject, then it can be used as masculine. So kana lahuma ukhtun.
So if they put kana ukht, it would have to be kana.
If it were kana ukhtun, it would become kanat ukhtun. And so kana lahuma ukhtun ismuha Maryam. And her name was Maryam, or whose name was Maryam. All of the names in the sentence are غير منصرف. They do not take tanween. كان هارون أخا موسى وكان لهما أخت اسمها مريم. And number 12, إن امرأتا. That's pronounced إن امرأتا فرعون. That is the ism of inna. Inna imra'ata fir'auna. And the khabar of inna comes afterwards, wajadat. In the middle we have a parenthesis. So if you want to put wasmuha asiyatu bintu muzahimin, you can put that in parentheses. So inna imra'ata fir'auna wasmuha asiyatu bintu muzahimin. That's in parentheses. Wajadat Musa. وهو ولد صغير فأخذته من المياه وكان ابنا or كان ابنا لها. So translation will be, verily the wife of Fir'aun, and her name was Asiya bint Muzahim, found Musa وهو ولد صغير, while he was a small boy. فأخذته, so she took him, or then she took him من المياه, from the waters. Miyah is plural of ma, water. She took him from the water. وكان ابنا لها, or وكان ابنا لها, and he was a son to her. And now we'll translate the sentences into Arabic. After that, Moses left the land of Egypt and went to another land. بعد ذلك ترك موسى. You can say خرج موسى من أرض مصر.
Balad is also balad.
Balad Misr is fine, or Ard Misr.
Or Baladil?
There's no alif lam on Misr. So it's Ard Misr or Balad Misr.
Or balad, either way it's not
No. Taraka Arda Misr or Kharaja min Ard Misr. So if you use Taraka, it will be Arda, he left, he abandoned it. But if you say kharaja min, then it will be majroor. So it depends on what you use.
So Misr never takes.
Misr will never take alif lam. وَالذَّهَبَ إِلَى, and then you can say either أَرْضٍ, this is feminine, so you will say أُخْرَى, it's a feminine, or بَلَدٍ آخر. Another. So the word other in Arabic is آخر masculine, أخرى feminine. بعد, meaning some other land. بعد means some. So if you say بعد, you would have to put a plural after it. وذهب إلى بعض البلاد, for example, some of the lands, which would be okay.
Does Misr take kasra?
Misr is used in the Quran without the kasra and tanween. إلى أرض مصر.
So it's
It's غير منصرف. If it means Egypt. Of course, Misr also can mean city, in which case it's just a regular noun. Misrun, Misran, Misrin. City. So the two grand cities of Islam, Al-Misran, are Kufa and Basra. This was before Baghdad was built. It's a history test in Islam. If you say that, for example, Imam Ja'far Sadiq went to Baghdad, right? Baghdad did not exist until after that time. It was built during the time of Imam Ja'far Sadiq. So Imam Baqir went to Baghdad. Then that would be historically impossible. Imam Ja'far Sadiq also did not go to Baghdad. But it was during that time that it was being built. So you will see in classical Arabic, Al-Misran will refer to the main cities of the Islamic world, and then the plural would be Al-Amsar. But Misr is also the name of one country, which is Egypt. And that would be Misr. Never miss one. And sometimes it's pronounced in modern Arabic Masr. But the correct pronunciation in classical Arabic is Misr. Number 2, the news has come to us today that many of the inhabitants of the city have died. Okay, Atana is good for the has come to us. Atana, and thank you for putting the verb first. An-naba'u or al-khabaru. Al-yawma. Al-yawma, because it's telling when. Words that tell when will be mansub. Al-yawma. That would be anna. Anna gives the sense of that something has happened. And many of the inhabitants of the city. Many is kathiran.
So you put it before the verb in this case.
Sorry?
You put all that before the verb in this case?
Well, anna, just like inna, it takes an ism and a khabar.
Okay.
So the ism would be kathiran, and then matu would be they died.
So you don't put all, or you put that at the end.
Matu will be the khabar of anna. Anna kathiran matu. That will be the khabar of it, anna. But it's not just many died, it's many of the inhabitants of the city. So kathiran, I didn't leave enough room. Min ahli al-madinati. Anna kathiran min ahli al-madinati matu. Number 3, did you lie to us when you testified against your brother? So to introduce a question we say hal, and kadhabtana. Hal kadhabtana, did you lie us? Or did you lie to us? When you testified. For when you can say lamma.
Can you use what to?
That would be while. You could say indama. Indama is also used for while.
Can you use
Idha is usually used for the future. So indama shahidta ala. Yes, to testify against is shahida ala. شهدت على أخيك. Number 4, there is no pious one except him who worships God with all his heart and with certain knowledge. It's la. La. You can say for pious one, لا رجل صالحا.
لا رجل صالح.
Salihan. Salihan would be an adjective describing rajula. Now, rajul can't take the tanween because of la, but salihan will take tanween. So, la rajula salihan. Or you can say la muttaqiya.
متقيا or متقيا? No, it has to be متقيا.
Muttaqiya. It will not take tanween. Rajul. It agrees, but Rajul was unable to take tanween. Salih can take tanween. It's just like if you have an adjective for a word that is غير منصرف, it can still take tanween. So there's other forms that are possible as well, but we're not going to go into all of the possible patterns. This is one correct pattern. So you can say la muttaqiya.
I know that when we say which one is in the plural one, we can just use like fuqara or aghniyā.
You can use the adjective without the noun as well. So you can say la muttaqiya, la saliha. But some words, they have a very clear meaning, like muttaqi. That's clear that you're referring to as a pious person. But salih can be used to refer to a person. It can be used to refer to an object that is in good working order. So it might be better to bring the noun la rajula salihan. Otherwise, I can say that an object is salih if it's sound. But in any case, it's not wrong. So la muttaqiya or la saliha or la rajula salihan, except him. Illa alladhi, right? Except what the one who worships God. Ya'budullaha, with all his heart. بكل قلبه, with all of his heart. And with certain knowledge. وبعلم اليقين. That's good. وبعلم اليقين.
So Rajula doesn't it change the meaning? But I mean, it's once, so it's not referring to a man or a woman. It's just referring to a gender.
Well, in Arabic, an adjective refers to masculine or feminine anyway. So even if we don't have rajula, we just have la salih, and it's still a masculine adjective. But you are right that rajula makes it specific to a man. There is no worthy man. So perhaps you would like to choose muttaqiyya, or pious.
Rajul always means man, isn't the discussion that used to mean
Rajul is used to mean man. It's masculine.
I have a question on the previous one that's still up there. I still am confused why you use ta after the shahid. Shahidta, why are you using ta?
Shahidta, you testified.
Ta for you. Is it
Shahidtu is I testified. Shahidti is you feminine testified. Shahidta is you
Testified?
masculine. Past tense.
past tense? Okay. Alright, I have to look at that again.
So
Okay, yeah, okay.
Shahidta,
Yes.
you testified.
Yes. I'm really confused, sorry.
If you look at the chart, it'll all
Yeah,
become clear.
I'm thinking of the inclusive pronouns, and not the
No,
verb.
this is the pronoun that is attached to the verb
That's right.
to indicate the subject of the
That's
verb.
right. That's
Number 5. There is no fruit in my father's garden. La fakihata fi hadiqati abi. Fi hadiqati abi. So we will eat but little tonight. Start with a negative verb. فلا نأكل and then except little. إلا قليلا, that's the object. We will eat but little, or we will not eat but little tonight. الليلة. He, his father, and brother all rose for the prayer. قام هو وأبوه وأخوه للصلاة, and afterwards they came to our house. وبعد ذلك, and afterwards, after that, أتوا or جاءوا, either one, إلى بيتنا.
So it says rose for prayer. So it's
قام, they rose.
In the previous one, illa is for the exception. Do you need the other line?
In English, in number 5, when it says, so we will eat but little, we say we will eat but little. What we mean is we will not eat but little. So that's just a figure of speech in English. I will do but little is the same as saying I will not do but little. Meaning I will do only little. Right? So in Arabic you will need the la in order to explain what the illa means. I'm not going to do but little. So lesson number 14. We did give the handouts lesson 14. If you don't have the material for lesson 14, then you're welcome to take a copy. And now we're going to look at verbs that have a doubled letter in the imperfect tense. Your chart has the verb yadullu. So on the board we'll do another verb. So you have 2 examples. You can look at the verb yadullu tonight. What happens with the verbs with the doubled letter is that instead of the variable haraka being on the second letter, it's going to be on the first letter. Normally, with the imperfect tense, it's the second letter of the root word that can take either a fatha or a dhamma or a kasra. Right? So, yan suru yaftahu yak sibu. That's just extra. Yak sibu. So it's yak si or yaftah or yansu. It's the second letter. But when we have a doubled letter, what happens is that the vowel gets carried backwards. So we start out with yad lolo. See how yad lolo looks like yan soro? Same pattern, yan soro, yad lolo. But we don't want to say yad lolo. Right? Our tongue might get tied into a knot. So what we do is we combine the two lams. So far so good. But now the dal has a sukoon. The lam starts with a sukoon. It has a shadda. And what happened to this dhamma? We take it back to the dal. Yadullu.
What's the word of mouth?
Dalla is madi. Yadullu is mudari. So if originally it was like yansuru, it will become yadullu. If it was like yaksibu, it will be, for example, yafriru will become yafirru, to flee. Yafirru. Yafirru. Yafriru becomes yafirru. Or ya'addu, to bite.
That's he guides or he will guide.
Yadullu, yes, to guide or to indicate. So for the example, why don't we use the word yafirru, which means to flee. Farra is the madi and yafirru is the mudari. So we start with the huwa form. Huwa yafirru. And then the dual huma yafirrani. Hum yafirruna. If you've memorized the chart for the normal verb like yansuru, then this is very easy. You have to memorize that one chart. So if you haven't done it yet, then make sure you memorize that one chart. Yansuru, yansurani, yansuruna. That, if you have it memorized, then these other forms will be very easy to understand. Yafirru, yafirrani, yafirruna. And then for the feminine, tafirru, tafirrani, and then we have a problem. What we do with this form, because we have a yes, we will not combine the letters. Yafrirna. Rirna. Because the original form, yafrirna, did not have a haraka on the ra, so we can't combine them. So we'll keep it yafrirna, it will remain that way. And then we'll continue. Tafirru, tafirrani, tafirruna, tafirrina, tafirrani, tafrirna.
The plural second person?
It's the feminine plurals that remain in a form that is not combined. There's no idgham. Tafirruna is the masculine second person plural. Tafrirna is the feminine. And then afirru, nafirru. We flee. So I'll read that chart because I didn't put the harakat on it. Yafirru, yafirrani, yafirruna, tafirru, tafirrani, yafrirna. Tafirru, tafirrani, tafirruna, tafirrina, tafirrani, tafrirna, afirru, nafirru. dalla yadullu, madda yamuddu, or any other verb will be conjugated in the same way. We can look at some examples from the Quran. We have, for example, yawaddu ahaduhum. That's from wadda yawaddu. The word mawadda is from the same root, which means love. Yawaddu ahaduhum. One of them or any of them would love. Law yu'ammaru alfa sanatin. If he were yu'ammaru, to be given or life. If he were given life, alfa sanatin, 1,000 years. If he were to live for 1,000 years. وَيَخِرُّونَ لِلْأَذْقَانِ. خَرَّ يَخِرُّ, to fall down. They fell down on their chins. وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And he does not enjoin or give encouragement. أَمْ يَدُسُّهُ فِي التُّرَابِ. Or should he hide it in the ground, in the dirt? Should he conceal it? So that's something that you have to memorize, and if you have not yet memorized the normal verb pattern, then start with that, and then review this. It'll become easier to look at. In Arabic, we have a form of the noun which gives the meaning of comparative, but it's used for both the comparative and the superlative. So in English we have good, and then we have better, best, big, bigger, biggest. There aren't three forms in Arabic. We just have a normal adjective, like kabir, and then there is a form which is used for the comparative, akbar. That can mean the biggest or bigger, depending on how it's used. The patterns are akbaru for the masculine, and then that dual will be akbarani or akbaraini, of course. And then akbaruna or akabir for the plural. The feminine will be kubra, the dual will be kubrayani, and the plural will be kubar or kubrayatun. Kubar or kubrayatun. And I'll just read the forms for the weak verbs. This is not something that you have to spend a lot of time on, because it's not going to be very common that you will see it. So we'll read it. You can look at it a few times for review and then be able to recognize it. It's not a very regular usage that you will see. But if there is a weak letter in the middle, like atiyab, the masculine forms are easy to recognize. Atiyabu, atiyabani, atiyabuna, or atayibu. In the feminine form for this verb, we will say tuba, tubayani, tubayat.
This is what tabba.
Uh,
What is the verb?
The verb is طيب.
Oh, طيب. Oh,
Or طوابة. So it's the middle letter is a weak vowel, a weak consonant, waw or ya. If it's the last letter that has the weak letter, then it will be like a'la. The dual will be a'layan, and the plural will be a'laun or a'alin. The feminine will be uliya, uliyayan, and then ula or uliyayat.
Is that?
Illiyin is from the same root, but it's not.
That's a different form.
It's a different form of the verb. If it is a doubled letter, then the last two will be combined. So instead of saying akbaru, we won't say ajdadu, we'll say ajaddu, ajaddan, and then ajaddun or ajad. And then the feminine form, judda, juddayan, juddayat, or judad. Ajadid, I think that's used differently for different forms, with the either the combination or with it broken up. I don't know if there's a single rule that applies to all verbs. And there are some cases where some words will not be broken up. Yes. Now, when we speak of comparative verbs, comparative forms of the noun, there are two words that are commonly used that convey the meaning of a comparative but are not in that form. And they are khairun and sharrun, which literally mean good and bad. But they can also mean better than and worse. So, huwa khairun minni does not mean he is good from me. It means he is better than I. وَهُوَ شَرٌّ مِنِّي, not he is bad or evil, but he is more evil than I. It's used in a comparative form. Now, when the comparative form is used with min, it will convey a comparative meaning, and it will always be used in the masculine singular form, even for reference to a woman. So if it's a masculine noun, of course you will use the masculine singular form. You will say kitabi ajaddu min kitabik. My book is newer than your book. Or if you want an easier sentence, kitabi akbaru min kitabik. My book is bigger than your book. If it is plural, it will still be a masculine singular comparative form. So kutubi is plural, but I will say kutubi akbaru min kitabik. My books are bigger than your book. So akbar will always stay the same.
Why do we have a plural form?
You have a plural form because it's used elsewhere. But when it's used with min, bigger than, it will always be masculine singular. Hiya khayrun minni, hum sharrun minkum. Khayr and shar, of course, will always stay in that one form. إثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. The sin of them is bigger than the benefit of them, or their sin is bigger than their benefit. هي أكبر. Notice that هي is feminine, but we still say أكبر. She is bigger than her sister. أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا. I am more numerous than you in terms of money, مالا, وأعز, and more mighty than you, نفرا, in terms of my people or my dependents. الفتنة أكبر من القتل. Akbar here is masculine singular, even though fitna is feminine. Corruption and sedition, أكبر من القتل, is bigger than, or meaning worse than, death, killing. مساكن ترضونها أحب إليكم من الله. It's أحب because this is the middle of a sentence. أحب is masculine singular, even though masakin is plural, it would be treated as feminine singular. And لأمة مؤمنة خير من مشركة. A believing bondswoman is better than a polytheist. It can be used, also the comparative form can be used without the min in the predicate of a sentence, and it gives that meaning of either being a comparison or being a superlative. So we can say Allahu Akbar, God is bigger, or God is biggest. Right? And now, that's the linguistic meaning, otherwise it's not really comparing God to anything, and we shouldn't understand that as a comparison or as a superlative, but simply that God is infinitely great.
It should be like God is great.
God is great might be the best translation. Allahu a'lamu, God knows better. God is more knowing. When there is a comparative noun, which is an adjective in English, but it's considered to be an ism, a noun in Arabic, that is used with alif lam, it will agree with the noun that it is describing. So, Ana rabbukumul a'la. Rabbukum is masculine, your Lord. Al-a'la will also be masculine. Al-a'la here is describing rabbukum. Right? Rabbukum is definite. It's also masculine, singular. Al-a'la will be masculine, singular.
What's the translation?
I am your greatest Lord.
I'm your Lord the Great.
The greatest. Your highest. I am your highest Lord. يَوْمَ نَبْطِشُ الْبَطْشَةَ الْكُبْرَى. On the day that we throw them down, that greatest throwing down. Al-Batsha is feminine, so Al-Kubra will be feminine. أُولَئِكَ لَهُمُ الدَّرَجَاتُ الْعُلَى. Ad-darajat is plural, al-ula is plural. اقرأ وَرَبُّكَ الْأَكْرَمُ. Al-Akram is describing Rabbuka. They are both masculine, singular. أُولَئِكَ هُمْ شَرُّ الْبَرِيَّةِ. And أُولَئِكَ هُمْ خَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ. In this case, why are shar and khair singular, whereas أُولَئِكَ is referring to the plural noun? Remember, shar and khair, because they are originally nouns, meaning goodness and evilness, they never change. They're always khair and shar. Ana khairun, نحن خير, هي خير.
So there is no feminine version. It's just this. There's no nothing else. Just shine.
Yes. There's no plural usage.
Is that correct?
That is a noun.
Well, that's not used in the comparative sense. Khayrat is the plural of goodness, not the plural of.
But they don't change because they are, I mean, in the verb form, right? Sharrun and khairun, we're describing the verb in the verb. Shar is itself a noun, right?
Shar is itself a noun.
But sharrun is a verb,
Sharrun is also a noun.
is a noun.
Sharrun, khairun, they can be used both as an adjective to describe, which is called a noun in Arabic, or they can be used as a noun in the sense of goodness or evilness. And one other usage in Arabic is that that comparative form, or the elative it's called, it can also be made mudaf, and the mudaf ilay can be either a definite or an indefinite noun. In this case, there's different possibilities for the usage, and we've simplified it here. The most common usage is that it will always be masculine singular. So you will see أقوى الرجال, the strongest of the men, أكرم النساء, the noblest of the women, أكبر أولاده, the eldest of his children. أقوى رجل, the strongest man, أكرم امرأة, the noblest woman, أكبر ولد له, the oldest or biggest child of his.
So what are we trying to say over here? It cannot have.
These are different ways that the comparative form can be used. It can be made mudaf, and the mudaf ilay will either be ma'rifah
So the
or nakira.
Mudaf cannot be al. Aqwa cannot be the.
Aqwa is mudaf here.
Yeah.
Aqwa rajulin, strongest man, or aqwa rijal, the strongest of the men. And finally, when you have the comparative form, in many cases it will need to be explained so we understand what we are referring to. Right? So if I say ana akthar minka, that literally means I am more than you. Right? I will not be more than you, but I can explain that, and the noun that explains it is called tamyiz, distinguishing. And it will be mansub. So I can say أنا أكثر منك علما, I am more than you in knowledge. أنا أكثر منك مالا, I am more than you in possessions. أنا أكثر منك أولادا, in terms of children. كانوا أشد منك قوة, they were stronger than you in power. هو أقل منها صدقا, he is less than her in truthfulness. So that material completes lesson 14. We did go through it a little bit quicker than we went through the other lessons, but much of it is something that you just need to look at and memorize, and some of it is not necessarily extremely important for you to memorize. If you can recognize it, that's good. But it's not going to be a very common thing that you're going to be using on your own on a day-to-day basis. Please do look at the exercises for lesson 14, and inshallah we will continue next week. We do have class next week. Next week we will have class, inshallah. Not all of them have a feminine form that are used. So in many cases the masculine form will be used in the... No, you won't see feminine form for many verbs used. Qawi is completely a different form. Qawi and qawiyya has both a masculine and a feminine form, but it's different from aqwa. So we can conclude with salawat.